All right, what's up, students? Good morning or good afternoon. Today we'll be doing the Introduction to Economics assignment. I'm going to be going over some terms with you here and asking you to create a discussion post with guidelines in response. That's our assignment for Monday the 25th. So we start off today taking a look at scarcity, goods and services, wants and needs, other basic economic concepts. If you're following along at home, check out this right away question here on the topic of scarcity. So just kind of close your eyes for a second and think back in your mind to the two most recent things that you purchased. And for each item, list the specific resources and materials used to make these goods and list the other things these resources could have been used for. Go ahead and pause the video, take a moment, and think through that question. All right, let's say you're done. I'll go ahead and go over my example. So let's see. Last thing that I bought was a bit of kale to go in a kale salad. That's a leafy green vegetable, for those of you who might not know. And the specific resources and materials used to make that vegetable, let's see. Well, the kale grew in the earth. It was grown at a farm. It was watered. It was touched by the sun for that whole process of, what's it called? Is it osmosis? Photosynthesis. There we go. Some human labor went into farming that kale. Eventually it was delivered to the grocery store. And what other things could have been done in the time that kale was made? Well, could have been any other crop besides kale. It didn't even have to be food. It could have been tobacco or cotton, right? And what if the money that was spent to make that farm in the first place had been spent on a factory instead? So clearly there's something here about the specific amount of resources and materials that go into making something, how that can be applied to different things, and how we make those choices, how we decide what to apply our limited resources and materials to, all comes back to this question of scarcity, which we'll check out in a moment here. How people make these decisions are based on their preferences. Study of econ begins with the idea that people cannot easily satisfy all of their needs and wants. So a need is something necessary like air, food, or shelter that you need to survive. A want is an item that we desire but is not essential to survival. We carefully consider the options available and decide which choices best match our preferences when it comes to satisfying our wants and needs. Preferences are very similar to maximizing utility, right? This idea that everybody's going to choose to do that in a different way. Now, there's a famous psychologist, Maslow, who created a hierarchy of needs that help remind us what we could say are needs as preferences under economics. Everything from self-esteem, social needs, safety and security, to our physical needs for survival. And oh yes, of course, because it's 2021, Wi-Fi and battery as well. Ha. LOL. So how do people satisfy their wants and needs? By making choices based on their preferences. You do that at the individual level. That's your microeconomics and your behavioral economics. Businesses do that. Now, that could be a small business, it could be a large corporation. Governments and societies do that. And when it's done on the global scale like that, it's referred to as macroeconomics. All of these choices made by all three groups are determined by scarcity. Scarcity is the basic recognition that all the goods and services that we produce in the world are scarce. Goods are the physical objects we create, like clothes and shoes. Services are actions or activities that one person performs or another. So, scarcity is the state of the limited nature of everything in the world, really, right? While on the other hand, people's needs and wants are unlimited. If the human population continues to grow, there will always be more people with more needs. And if consumerist society continues to promote, endless consumption of different goods and services out there, then our wants will always remain unlimited as well. So we have to differentiate the scarcity from a shortage. A shortage is a situation in which a individual good or service is temporarily unavailable. That may be short or long term. But scarcity, on the other hand, is a state that always exists, that never goes away, because in total, humanity's wants and needs are greater than our current economic supply, right? Goods and services are scarce because they're all made from resources that are scarce. And that's a fundamental nature of scarcity, that because there's not enough land, sun, air, water, bread, labor, there's basically not enough to go around for everyone. So how do individuals, or societies, I should say, satisfy their wants and needs in a world where there is scarcity of all goods and resources? All right. Do you put the blame on the individual level? Do you think that people need to make smarter decisions to do better in a world of scarcity? Or do we put the blame on the societal level? Do we think that our macroeconomic institutions, like our governments and like our global community, needs to have a smarter approach to eliminating scarcity and its side effects like poverty, homelessness, and lack of health care, right? Okay. So when we do go and choose to make goods and services out of our limited available resources, what we're doing is combining the factors of production. So there's three major areas for factors of production. We've got land, labor, and capital. Land refers to all natural resources that are used to create goods and services, including the land itself, but also natural resources like water, coal, forests, soil, etc. Labor is the effort of people. And capital is any human-made resource that is used to create other goods and services. This one we divide into two categories, both physical and human capital. Physical capital is when we have goods used to produce other goods, such as tools and buildings like factories. Human capital is when folks have skills and knowledge that they can apply to a situation and use their experience to make that job go faster, right? So in both cases, capital is referring to a human-made resource. It's just that in one case it is quite literally a physical object, and the other case it is represented by human knowledge and experience. We have a name for someone who combines all of these factors of production. That's an entrepreneur. It's someone who takes land, labor, and capital, puts it together, and goes ahead and creates a new good or service. Remember, goods or services are things that we use to fulfill our wants and needs, right? Okay, so a quick image for you here about these four factors of production and how they can be visualized, right? The land itself, the earth and the trees growing out of them. The labor is the physical action. The human capital is the skills and knowledge that make this all work, right? Knowing how much to water the trees, knowing what kind of tractor to buy, knowing what season to plant them in, right? And the tractor itself and the barn are an example of physical capital. Those items, those tools which makes processing the factors of production easier, right? So land, labor, and capital, both human and physical, coming together to create a product here, a good, in this case, a peach, it looks like. All right. So all of these economic resources that are needed to produce goods, whether it's something simple like a peach, potato, or french fry, to a computer, is scarce. French fries need, for example, water, fertilizer, land, pesticides, processing, freezing. How many examples of the factors of production can you find in this short paragraph? Go ahead and pause the video, take a minute, and try and recognize all of the factors of production in this paragraph: land, labor, physical, and human capital. All right, so the answer is here. The quantity of land and water available for the French fries are the land, and of course it is limited, like all things that are scarce. The labor involves not only the growing of the crop, but also the processing of it through its delivery all the way to your door. And physical capital in this example is limited as well, because it has to do with how much money the entrepreneur is able to provide onto that farm. So all forms of the factors of production are present in making these French fries, and they are also all limited due to scarcity. All right, that's just about the time that we have for this video here. Thank you very much for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.